right. Today I have special guest Carol Tobias. Carol, welcome to the Men's Alliance podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be on.
Today we are revisiting the topic of abortion. We talked about it, as many of you will remember, a while back in episode 182 was men and abortion. And we really talked about how it's not just a women's issue. It takes a man and a woman to make a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ending of the life of that baby is going to affect men in a profound way as well. So if you hadn't heard that, I recommend you go back and listen to that. We had a couple tribesmen sharing their personal stories. It was a very powerful episode. But today we're approaching the subject from a different angle. Carol is the director of National Right to Life. Carol, tell us about your organization. What does this organization do? Share this with our listeners.
National Right to Life is the oldest pro-life, one of the oldest pro-life organizations in the country, actually founded prior to Roe v. Wade, which came down from the Supreme Court in 1973. We have affiliates in all states and chapters in local communities, and we work to educate the public as to why the unborn child is a living member of the human family that deserves to be protected. So we work through education and political action. We try to pass laws and just try to pull more people in, making them aware that this is the greatest civil rights battle that our country has faced in many, many years.
When you talk about this being the greatest civil rights battle, I know that can sound to some people, some listeners, that can sound like hyperbole. But I'm sure you know some statistics that say otherwise, that say it literally is. Could you just share with us the scope of this problem?
Since the Supreme Court legalized abortion in 1973 nationwide, more than 60 million unborn babies lost their lives to abortion. Just in the last year, we've given up about 1 million lives of babies that were killed by abortion. So this is the greatest Holocaust. We don't use that word lightly, because we know, especially now with all the attacks that are going on against the Jewish community, the World War II Holocaust under Hitler was horrific. But I will use that word here as well, because, as I said, more than 60 million American babies are dead. And that's just something that we have to wake up the country to, the fact that these are members of the human family. They are living, growing beings, and they deserve to be protected.
Well, 60 million. And you said 1 million in just the last year.
Yes.
That's more than America has lost in all the wars we've ever fought in combined.
Yes, it is.
By a lot. By not even close.
Yes, the war on the unborn has taken more lives than any collective event in the U.S. in history.
Well, now I have so many questions I'm dying to ask you. But one that I hear a lot from the people on the other side of this topic, who are, as they would describe themselves, pro-choice. One argument that I hear is people are going to get abortions anyway. People are going to get abortions, and we want to prevent, the back alley abortion. So let's make it, I think it was Hillary Clinton that said legal, safe, and rare. Although, why rare? If it's not murder, why rare at all? So I think she gave away a little bit even in that statement, legal, safe, and rare. But what do you say to those people who are in favor of, it's a necessary evil. It's going to happen anyway. Let's make it safe for these women.
Well, it was during the Bill Clinton era that safe, legal, and rare was the mantra. Hillary used it for a while, but then she even backed off of that, because you're right. They decided if it's something that a woman has the right to do, then it shouldn't be rare. So they just wanted to go safe and legal. But what we are finding out is that even now they're using, they're pushing the abortion pill, saying it's safer than Tylenol. It isn't.
Mm.
Abortion isn't safe. The chemical abortion pill is causing adverse physical problems for women more than 10% of the time. Many of them are ending up in the emergency rooms. They're calling the ambulances because they're experiencing a lot of pain and bleeding and they're scared. But they're not being told that. They're being told, go home, this is easy, this is safe. So it isn't safe. Ending the life of another child is, of course, of the unborn child, ends that life, but it also affects the woman physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically.
Yeah.
This is not good for anybody, any part of our society.
Yeah, I think that that's such an important statement you just made, how it affects, the mother psychologically. They I feel like, our culture tries to paint this as a very easy, flippant thing that one can do, and they're really doing a tremendous disservice to the lifelong scars that both the moms and the dads carry with them for the rest of their life. Um, Now, you mentioned at the very beginning, you mentioned a very large scope of national right to life and all that you guys are doing. What is what are some of the bigger, more impactful things that national right to life is doing right now?
If we're looking at the federal level, we are very active in working with Congress to defund Planned Parenthood.
Mm,
Planned Parenthood is the nation's largest abortion provider. Last year, were responsible for the deaths of more than 400,000 unborn children. They
wow.
perform about 40% of all abortions in the country. Of their $2 billion income, now this is a nonprofit, a $2 billion income, 39% of that came from the taxpayers
Wow.
for what they called medical healthcare services.
Mm,
So we are trying to stop the federal government from funding them through the Title X and Medicaid program. We are working with the states to do some of that at the state level, although we've got some crazy pro-abortion, rabidly pro-abortion governors out there, getting their legislatures to up the tax dollars that they will put toward abortion to make up for anything the federal government would take away. So just the funding of abortion is a big battle. We came into this year after the Biden administration where he had told emergency room hospitals that they had to take care of women who came in who wanted an abortion, told
mm,
the Veterans Affairs that their hospitals should start performing abortions for anybody in the VA system, told the military that they can provide transportation for the soldiers to travel to another state if necessary to get an abortion. I mean, they just went down, even telling businesses that they were to allow paid leave for a woman who wanted to get an abortion. The Catholic Church objected to that and filed a lawsuit, and so that has been overturned. But we came into this year with all these crazy pro abortion regulations from the Biden administration. And thank the Lord, Donald Trump has put some amazing people in his administration. And they are already taking care of a lot of those problems and reversing them and getting us back on a track where at least the federal government is not promoting or participating in abortions. Our focus really now is turning to the states. We've got a lot of states because of the referendums. They now have laws that allow abortion for any reason throughout all 9 months of pregnancy. We have a lot of state legislatures and governors funding abortion in the states. We've got states attacking pro-life pregnancy centers. These are places that are established to help a woman who is unsure about what she wants to do with the abortion, or I would like the baby, but I don't know if I can afford to go on with, my life, my job, my career. I don't know if I can take care of a baby. The pregnancy centers, more than 3,000 of them around the country, are there for that purpose, to help a woman answer her questions and help her with whatever they can to make the decision easier so that she would choose life for her baby. It's an amazing network. It's all donations, contributions coming in from people in the community. We have several state governments that are attacking them, trying to shut them down. The
Hmm.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts actually appropriated $1 million for an ad campaign to destroy the reputation of the pregnancy centers in the state. So
That
we've
is
got a
just
lot of battles going on around
unbelievable.
the
That
country.
is mind blowing.
It is.
What is their argument? Like what do they how do they even frame that as being a viable move? What are they saying? How are they defaming these sinners?
The biggest claim that they are using is that they are deceptive.
Mm.
They make women, they don't, but this is the charge. They
Yeah.
make women believe that if they are going to that facility, they can get an abortion. But once they are in there, then they are going to be shown an ultrasound of their child and pressured not to go through with the abortion.
Mm.
Well, no, these centers are above board. Most of them have medical personnel either on staff or close by, handy to help with anything that comes up, any question that the woman might have. They're amazing places. But yes, because they are pulling women in who decide to choose life rather than get an abortion, that has raised the ire of the abortion industry, and they want to shut them down.
Wow. One of the just the entire argument that's used here, I find it's very um it's very, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's kind of self-deceptive. It's disingenuous. Um, one of the worst ones I think is the claim, about the phrase bringing a baby into this world, bringing a child into this world, right? And you'll often hear, them women say, "Well, I'm just not sure if I'm ready to bring a child into this world." This one has always just baffled me because the baby is already in this world. It
Mhm.
seems like a discussion that one should have had months earlier because the baby's here. It is in this world. It's right there. There's just a little bit of uh, uh, skin between me and that baby. That baby's here. It's in this world. It already exists. It's already living. It already has a heartbeat. The discussion about should we bring a baby into the world is a moot point
Right.
by now in the argument. But there's so many others like that as well. It's just everything that's being said, just it doesn't even pass kind of the intellectual honesty test. I think if we're being serious and if we're being honest with ourselves, it's like we've come so far. You mentioned the ultrasound and these, what are they? Are they 4D now? What are we up
Many of
to?
them are. It's 3D and 4D, yes.
3D and 4D ultrasounds where there's no question about it anymore. There's no debate about whether this thing is a clump of cells or a living thing. It's like it's right there. It's got a heartbeat. It's sucking its thumb. It's wincing at pain. It reacts to the mother's voice. It reacts to music. Like there's just no evidence that this thing is not a living human being. What do you say to this argument? What do you say to this kind of a new direction on their argument about it? Well, maybe it's a human, but it's not a person. And this new argument about personhood. What do you say to this? How do you respond?
There really isn't any new argument. I mean, we've been facing this for 30 years. Everybody's trying to find a reason to excuse the abortion. But this is, from the moment of conception, a living human being, the most vulnerable member of the human family. And whatever reasons people are facing. And I realize that a young woman who maybe is being pressured by her boyfriend or husband or her parents and her friends, you can't let this interrupt your schooling, or you can't, you've got plans for your life. This baby is going to, prevent that and ruin your life. All of those have to be put to the side because we have another individual that has to be considered. And that's what the pregnancy centers are doing, is helping that woman realize that, your life can go on. It's not going to end because you have this baby. And many women, actually, studies have shown that up to maybe 60% of the women say that if someone had just held their hand, told them, don't do it, I will be there to support you, they would not have gone through with the decision.
Wow.
A lot of them are being pressured into it by sometimes well-meaning people. Like I said, it might be their parents, saying you're too young, this is going to ruin your life. Well-meaning, but if someone had said, you can do this, you're strong enough, and we are there with you and for you, we would see, I think, a bigger change in the culture.
Wow. Carol, what initially led you to getting involved in this pro-life movement? How did you come to be the champion of this cause?
I grew up in the movement. My parents were very involved in back in the 70s, actually before the Supreme Court decision. They knew it was coming down, so they were very involved in our state, North Dakota Right to Life group. So when I got a little older, I was out of school and I had a job, but I had some spare time. I decided I was going to volunteer my time there. And it just kept growing. I was hired by the state group in North Dakota to run the office. I was the executive director there for 8 years. And then I got to know the people at National Right to Life through that job. So when the position opened here, I applied for it and I got it. And now I've been president for 14 years. So it's been my life. These are innocent human beings that need protection. And if I can do anything to help them, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, man. What has been share with us one or two of your best moments in this fight, in this battle? What have been some of the encouraging victories that you've seen along the way?
Well, when I came to Washington, my job was political director. And my first full session here was in 1994, when Democrats had controlled the U.S. House for more than 40 years. And we couldn't get much through. There were pro-life Democrats back then, and we were very grateful for them. But that was the first time that the Republicans took control of the U.S. House of Representatives, like I said, for 40 years. And I was very heavily involved in trying to get pro-lifers active for pro-life candidates. So that was, an exciting moment for me to be a part of that. Otherwise, I think my reasons for continuing come from the conversations I have. I work with absolutely the greatest people in the world. Pro-lifers are caring and loving. They have great sense of humor. They have principles. They're wonderful people to hang around with. My best friends. But then I think of the people that I have met over the years. One woman sticks with me in particular. She was in her early 20s, had a little boy that was about 3 years old, absolutely adorable little boy. And one time she started telling me her story. She had been pregnant 4 times. The first time ended in her giving birth and then releasing the child for adoption. She didn't know what had happened to that baby, but she was comfortable with that. Her second pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. Her third pregnancy ended in the birth of the little boy that she had with her. And her fourth pregnancy was an abortion. And at first I was shocked. You had a baby and then you went on to get an abortion. And we find that to be very common.
Really?
Women who have already gone through the process, they know what's happening, they will, get an abortion for a subsequent pregnancy. But she just started bawling, tears streaming down her face, and she said, if I could do anything over again, I would not have that abortion. That of the other 3 pregnancies, she was okay with the outcome. This is the one that was holding her back and just really she was struggling with. And we see that so often. So if I can do anything to encourage women and help them to not have to go through that agony, those are my victories.
Wow, that is what a unique example that woman was too, because she's offering some insight there that even giving your child up for adoption or a miscarriage, nothing will haunt her as much as the choice
Right.
to have one aborted. That's powerful. You mentioned that in the 90s there were some pro-life Democrats. Are there any pro-life Democrats today? Do you know? Men, are you in the market to buy, build, or refinance a home? If so, you got to contact Chris Norwood, call sign Coop. He's with Town Bank Mortgage, and he's been doing this for over 22 years. He's licensed in 16 states, and he can absolutely help you get the house that you need to get. Contact Coop at Town Bank Mortgage. You can contact Coop at 804-439-3206. That's 804-439-3206.
We have one or two in Congress, in the House of Representatives, that will sometimes vote with us. And in several of our state legislatures, there are still pro-life Democrats, but they're getting few and far between. If you're going to be active in the Democratic Party, you almost have to hold on to their pro-abortion principles.
Yeah, yeah, and we certainly saw they really attempted to make that one of their most important, points in this last election. And
That was all Kamala Harris campaigned about.
yeah, it was like
That
they
was her
tried to
number
make
one
it
issue.
an election about that, and I think that it didn't resonate well. There were so many other policies that were broken that it just didn't carry the way they thought it was gonna. Um, let's talk for a little bit. I want you to just speak to men. Speak to our men. Obviously, we're Men's Alliance. We're predominantly men listening, although we do have a lot of wives of our men that love listening to us as well. But we hear so often that abortion is a women's issue, and that somehow if you don't have a uterus, you can't have an opinion, or you can't be outspoken. We're told to just keep our mouths shut and sit on the sideline and let the women sort this out. So speak to the men listening. What do we need to hear?
Throughout time, men have been the protectors of children. And we can't let that change. We can't let that stop. Now, if this is your child, then I would encourage you, fight as hard as you can. What does the mom need? If she really doesn't want the baby, will she let you have the baby and walk away? Just do whatever you can to make the situation better, but let her know that you will be there with her and for her. You're not going to walk away. But men have to be involved. We need their voices. The children need their protection. This is not, a woman didn't create this baby all by herself. Now, I
Right.
realize medical technology is getting to the point where she's going to say she did. But we need men to be active and vocal and speak up. I think a lot of people are just scared to say anything in our society now because you don't know what's going to come back, who's going to start yelling at you, or are you going to lose some friends over this? Well, the life of an innocent unborn child might be worth losing friends. Are they real friends if they're going to walk away because of that?
Mm.
But we need everybody who has who wants to protect the babies to be speaking up, because once one voice speaks up, another one is going to join in, and another one is going to join in. We have to create that chorus, so it's not someone standing off in the corner whispering because they're afraid to say anything.
Yeah. I do you know offhand? I don't know if this is a statistic that's available or not, but um, do you know what percentage of those who are pro-life, who are working at the state and federal level of national right to life, are men versus women?
Um, we have a pretty good mixture. I would say, like running our state offices, our state organizations, we have more women, but we do have a lot of men involved, active on our board and in our chapters. So no, well, actually, I'm pretty pleased that we're hitting both men and women and getting them involved.
Yeah, that's great to hear. We talk in Men's Alliance about this year we've been really talking about reforging biblical masculinity. And when we talk about that, the first thing we talk about is protecting,
Mhm.
protecting, providing, uh, loving, and leading. And you said, throughout history, men have always been the champions of protecting children. And that just really hits me. You think about the very first thing that men are called to do is protect. And, um, the special operations forces in the Army, the U.S. Army with the Green Berets, I love their motto, on their insignia. It says liberating the oppressed in Latin. Um, but when you think about, what men have historically been called to do, protecting children, fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves, liberating the oppressed, there's really no greater, more important, more close to home. And as you mentioned with those statistics at the beginning, um, no greater cause that we could work to work to impact innocent lives than in the pro-life movement.
That's true. I mean, the most helpless, innocent member of the human family is that little baby growing inside his or her mother's womb. And we just need to be there to help the women and to help that baby into life. And I would encourage your men too. And have no doubt this is what you're focusing on with them all the time. But with Father's Day coming up, men, even if it's a split family, but men are so important in the way their children are raised. I mean, there are all kinds of studies that if a father is present in the child's life, you can, maybe encourage your wife or girlfriend to have a baby, but then you have to be there throughout as well.
Yeah.
But men who are involved in the lives of their children have children who are more socially comfortable talking to people. They are better at controlling their emotions. That there is just such a huge difference overall in the way the child responds to society. And, I think men are getting a bad rap in society today in a lot of ways. But we really need fathers to step up and protect the babies and take care of your children and your families.
So
That's what's going to
good.
save this country.
Tell us more about what can men listening to this podcast, what's something that we can do like today, tomorrow, next week? How can we get involved? The men listening to this, that this message is resonating with, they agree with us, they want to do something. What can we do both at the state or federal level?
There are a lot of different things. One, as I said, just speak up. If you're having a beer with a buddy, bring up, say, hey, have you ever thought about abortion? Just get the conversation going. And some people are going to think you're crazy. That's not what we're going to talk about here. But let people think about it, and that you're thinking about it, that it's something that's important. We've got some states next year that are going to be having ballot measures again. Putting yard signs up, making sure people understand where you are, getting involved in the church, asking if there's a pro-life effort there. Certainly, we have statewide organizations and chapters that I would love to have anybody volunteer to do, whether it's educational work, political work, lobbying work. Pregnancy centers, as I said, there are thousands of them around the country. They are always looking for volunteers and fundraisers and donations. We've got someone that said that they would donate a piece of furniture to some woman who needs it, but they need someone to pick up that furniture and get it to her.
Hmm.
So there are a lot of different things that can be done on an individual level, or joining a group and working together as a group to elect a candidate. It just depends on the interests and the talents, and whatever you've got. There's a place for you in the movement.
Well, that's good to hear. We Men's Alliance, we have tribes all over the country, and we often double as a moving organization. So we're
Sure.
always ready, always standing by to help anybody move their furniture to a new house, or to help furnish, a living place for that mom who's carrying the baby. So man, that's an easy win for Men's Alliance. You talked a little bit about the church. What's the connection that you've seen from your years of experience between people's personal faith and their advocacy for unborn?
There's a strong connection. People of a strong Christian faith are strongly pro-life. Now, unfortunately, we've got some churches around the country that claim to be Christian, and they are so opposite of anything I believe in that it's kind of laughable that they're called a church, but they still get their tax exempt status. The country is becoming less and less churched, and that is affecting us because if people aren't hearing the word, they're going in their own direction and looking after themselves more than after others. So it's, you know, it is sad that I think the church is not as strong as it should be. And we are seeing that, I think, impact society in many ways.
Yeah. For sure, I've seen a lot of that. I feel like it's an important enough issue. We're talking about the murder of unborn babies, right? Murder being the intentional taking of an innocent life. So if you intentionally take the life of someone who is innocent, that's the definition of murder. So abortion fits that definition. It's intentional. It's taking the life. It's an innocent person. Um, I tried to have a author on here one time who was pro-abortion. Um, it was a lady. Her name slips my mind, but she's written several books about being a Christian and being pro-abortion. So we reached out to her and invited her on the podcast. I thought, this is somebody who writes about it. Surely they'll be interested in talking about it. But she actually declined, would not come on because the use of the word murder, which I thought was interesting because it's like you have to know that's the pro-life position, right? The whole pro-life position is that abortion is murder. So it was like she wasn't going to come on if we were going to use our words of our position. But it is that is what it is. Like I'm not trying to use that term, that phrase murder, uh, antagonistically. I'm not trying to use it as an emotional word to take a jab at her. It's just that's by definition what abortion is, right? And so when we think of it in these stark, honest with ourselves terms of what this is, uh, there's really no more important topic, right? Like when you're going into the voting booth, when you're stepping in to cast your vote, there might be a whole host of things that I don't like about a certain candidate. Maybe I don't like their position on, taxes, or, spending and deficit, or the environment. Um, but this one trumps all the rest, right? It's like, if I agree with a candidate on everything else, but they are pro abortion, I can't vote for them. And I'll have conversations with guys who are like, but what about all this other stuff? And I'm like, yeah, all that other stuff is valid, but it is not anywhere near the level of importance of murdering babies. So it's like, this is the thing we have to stop first. Once we stop this as a nation, then we can turn our attention to other important things of lesser value for eternity, for the kingdom. But until we've stopped this one, this is all that matters. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I agree with you completely. If a candidate thinks it's okay to kill those unborn children, then they most likely are going to think it's okay that our tax dollars are used to do it. I don't want that person deciding what should be maybe available in the schools, in our educational system. I don't want those values making those kinds of decisions. So if they're going to throw my tax dollars away and influence kids in bad ways, I think it not always, but I think candidates who have taken that position then tend to have a different outlook on the way this country should be run, or the state should be run. I just don't trust a candidate if they won't protect those babies. Then whatever they stand, wherever they stand on other issues, pales in comparison.
Amen. Has money gotten in the way of how God can use you? Let me tell you about Tom Love, certified financial planner with the Main Street Group. Tom Love from Tuckahoe Tribe, aka Doc, can absolutely get you squared away with your finances. My wife and I use Doc to handle our personal finances, and his team is second to none. Tom is a certified financial planner. He's a Dave Ramsey SmartVestor Pro. He's been ranked top 40 under 40. He's been ranked number 2 in Richmond Times-Dispatch. He's been featured in the Wall Street Journal. And make sure you mention Men's Alliance whenever you reach out to Doc. He gives Men's Alliance, Tip of the Spear Ministries, a portion of the proceeds when you invest through him. He's a fee-only fiduciary, which means he doesn't make money unless you make money. So check out Tom Love at the Main Street Group. And I know that this is such a painful topic for, like I mentioned at the beginning, we've got men in Men's Alliance who they've had abortions. They've driven their girlfriend to the abortion clinic, or they've been with their wife at the abortion clinic. They're carrying these scars. It's very painful. And there's a dynamic here whenever we discuss pro-life versus pro-abortion about sometimes pro-lifers are painted as uncaring, right? It's like the other side just cares about the lady and loves her and wants to give her whatever she wants. And we're the group that's painted as being like judgmental and harsh. But whenever I talk to anyone in pro-life, I don't ever see that stereotype. I don't ever see it in the people. But what do you say to that? What's your response to this dynamic about caring for the woman and not being judgmental?
Well, pro-lifers care for the baby and the woman, the mother. And, that's why the pregnancy centers are there. We do everything we can to help them make a good decision, help them through what might be a difficult time in her life. The other side likes to say that they care about women, but they don't. They are not willing to give her options. We hear, they say that they're pro-choice. They don't support choice. They don't support options. She's supposed to get an abortion. That's why they're trying to shut down the pregnancy centers. There is an amazing process now. It's been around for quite a few years, but a woman who starts the chemical abortion pill process, it works in, you take the first drug, the mifepristone, and it's going to slowly dry up the nutrients, the progesterone in the uterus. And then a couple days later, she takes, and the baby's going to die basically from starvation because there is no nutrition there. The woman then takes the second pill, and that's misoprostol, and it's going to cause cramping so that her body will expel what is, supposedly now the dead little baby. And it varies. I mean, we've seen different sizes, pictures of women who see this in their bathroom, or they're on their bed, on the toilet. This is something that she is doing at home. There is a process. If she takes that first pill and then is all of a sudden like, what am I doing? I don't want to kill my baby. If she gets help quickly enough, they can do what is basically a progesterone treatment to restore the nutrition, the nutrients that are in the uterus, and her baby can survive. We have more than 6,000 kids around now because their moms made that decision. They said, I wish I hadn't taken that pill. I want to save my baby, and they got help. There are places, Colorado and I think Vermont was looking at it, they have actually gone after and tried to penalize doctors and nurses, pregnancy centers who help a woman change her mind.
Hmm.
They want to shut down that abortion pill reversal process. They do not want women to have options. They don't want her to go to the pregnancy centers. They don't want her, the only option is supposed to be that abortion. And somehow, they don't care. Like I said earlier in the broadcast, that many of the women who take that abortion pill are ending up in the emergency room. We've got studies from other countries, Finland, Canada, showing 10% of the women end up in the emergency room. They won't tell anybody that. They're saying this is as safe as Tylenol. I don't think they care about the after effect that the woman is going through.
Hmm.
I don't know why. If you're pro-choice, then give her choices. But they really are doing what they can to take all those away from women so that if they become pregnant, somehow it's either, yay, I'm having a baby, or has to have a dead baby. There should be no deliberation.
Wow. You know, whenever this topic comes up, whenever there's a debate, whenever there's a conversation about pro-life, usually adoption gets mentioned. Usually it gets mentioned as an option. Well, you could have the baby and give it up for adoption. I'm a little bit surprised that it's not discussed more, that option is not talked about more, that's not like the antidote, right? It's like there are hundreds of thousands of couples that are waiting and wanting to adopt a baby, and then there's women who are pregnant that don't want the baby. It seems so intuitive. It seems so obvious. It seems like such an easy win-win solution. Listen, if you're not equipped to raise your child, we've got an incredible option for you. We've got these families, these couples who are longing to adopt your baby. Is there not like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but is there not more that we can do to connect these two groups of people?
The connection isn't the problem. There are, adoption agencies. The pregnancy centers will work with women if they are considering adoption. There are certainly lawyers all over the country who have files of people waiting for adoption. So I don't think connecting them is the problem. Women seem to be deciding either I want an abortion or I want the baby. I don't want someone else raising my baby.
Mm.
And that's where I'm not quite sure what the block is, other than I think, well, I've heard some say, well, yeah, but I could, let someone adopt my baby, and then, he or she may be abused, and I will always wonder what kind of life they're having. And I think for many of them, they feel it's less emotionally stressful to get the abortion rather than wonder for the rest of their life what's happening to their baby.
Mm. That's just hits me as just a very selfish position, right? Like, I would rather pour the rest of my water on the ground than give it to somebody who's thirsty. Um,
That's a great example.
it's just it's shocking. Are you seeing what is the connection? Let me ask you this. What is the connection in your mind between feminism as a movement and pro-abortion position? How does the classical position of feminism work its way into this debate?
Well, if you talk to what I would consider a true feminist, it's a woman who realizes that women have an incredible gift, that they have the ability to bring forth life, into this world. And they would acknowledge and take, I don't want to say credit, but say that to be a true feminist, you recognize and accept all of the gifts that a woman's body has. The feminist who says, I don't want to have that child, I think is actually denying part of who they are.
Mm. That makes a lot of sense, right? It's kind of like the modern feminist movement, in my opinion. It really downgrades women to the level of men, right? When
I was just
they're
I was just
already the
thinking they want
culmination.
to be men.
Yeah, it's like the women are the culmination of God's creation, right? So he kept creating till he had created women, and then he stopped. Um, they're really the culmination, and they bear such unique abilities and gifts. And then the modern feminist movement of get an abortion and go work outside the home like the men, it's like, man, that seems like you're really ruining the great thing that you had to just and you're it's a lie too. It's a lie that's convincing women that to really truly be complete, they need to go file, insurance claims at a company full of strangers for 8 hours a day instead of raising children. Um, and it's a bait and switch that culture has really fooled so many women on.
Yeah, I agree. They're women who are denying the ability to have children and all the other wonderful attributes that go along with being a woman, are actually hurting the feminist label.
What are your thoughts? This was, we've had you scheduled for a while, but then right before this recording today, a couple days ago, we saw Michelle Obama making this statement about a woman's ability to create life is the least of her, reproductive abilities. What are your thoughts? I'll give you a chance to comment on that.
Again, I think she's just saying she would rather be a man.
Mm,
I don't understand why. I never had kids. I would love to have had them. It just didn't happen. I can't understand why someone would say that that is the least important thing that you could do. Or I, I don't know. Maybe Michelle was just talking off the top of her head without thinking.
yeah. Maybe. Hey, let's close with this. If you had 30 seconds, like maybe in an elevator or something, if you had 30 seconds with a woman who was considering an abortion, um, what would you say to her in a limited moment? What would you say?
Please don't do this. You have an amazing ability to do more than you think. You can handle the baby and you are not going to be alone. If it's not going to be me, I will find someone to walk with you through this. You will have the support you need to give this child life. If you decide you really don't want the child, then adoption is an option, but you are not alone and you do not want to make a decision that you will regret for the rest of your life.
Wow. Very powerful. Carol, thank you so much for being with us today. We'll have the link to National Right to Life here in the show notes, and encouraging men who are listening to this to get involved. Get involved at your state level, at your federal level, putting yard signs up. There's so many ways that we can be bold ambassadors for Christ. Men who take a stand, who aren't afraid to lose some friends if standing up for right means losing friends, right? And so, man, I appreciate your encouragement. You've dedicated your life to this incredible cause. Thank you once again, Carol.
Thank you, Goose. It's been a pleasure being on with you.
To find out more about what we're doing and to join us on our mission, go to men'salliancetribe.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a 5-star review.